we got to get into this All-Star discussion because I was with you all weekend, and there's a lot of discourse on Monday, a lot of commentary from all sides. You were a part of the 3-point contest Saturday night. You obviously are an observer of everything that's going on. What is your overall feeling on All-Star weekend? Does it need a fix? And if so, what is the fix?
I think by nature of reaction and reception to how the recent ones, especially this one, has gone down, I think a fix is definitely in order. I don't think it needs to be anything complete overhaul. Like, it's not like we're extremely far off. I think the main thing that it comes down to is just incentive. Finding a way to incentivize, the game to be played at a high level, kind of as it once was.
So stakes, basically.
Mm-hmm.
So if you are Adam for the day, and I'm going to run through a bunch of solutions that people have suggested, but if you're Adam for the day, just off the top, you're thinking about this on your flight out there, your flight home. What's the first stake? You're somebody who, there's an argument you could have been in this game this year. What is the stake that you would actually care about?
I think there's always a monetary stake, as they did with the NBA Cup, that motivates people. I think when you're playing...
What kind of monetary, though?
I don't know exactly. But if we just dive deeper into it, if you're playing, the best 20-some guys in the NBA are in the game, then that also means they're probably the highest 20-some paid players in the NBA, which means that incentive doesn't have the same pop as it does for an entire roster of teams. So I don't know what that would look like. Maybe it could be like a dynamic financial charitable partnership that can be effective, in guys' home cities or wherever their foundations work or anything like that, or whatever city they play in, or just straight cash. I mean, people do respond to straight cash. I just don't know what that number could be or would be.
Yeah. So I want to run through a couple things that people suggested. There's one that I like, which we've talked about before, which I don't think is for everybody, which is basically to make the stakes home court advantage, make the game go back to East-West, and clear out the weekend for the players that are in it, which is one thing we should address, is all of the events and parties, and you basically land Thursday night, and for the entire weekend, you're slammed. You're moving. You have no downtime. Everything is booked out,
right,
hour to hour. It is like you can't sit and take a walk for 10 minutes. But to clear all that out and have the winner of the game get home court advantage, the conference that wins the game get home court advantage in the finals in June. This is obviously something that baseball tried and was very, there's very mixed feedback to it when they tried it, and so they got rid of it. But I'm curious your thoughts on that as sort of an initial solution.
I think it could motivate teams that are in prime position to make it that far, but it's really hard to just skip ahead to the finals when you're in that situation. It's mid-February. There's mid to high 20s, probably it's always around 28 games of the season left. And then to make it to the finals, you still have to win the first round. You still have to win the second round. Then you still have to win your conference finals. So that projecting, it sounds good. I want home court advantage in the finals. But there's so many steps before you get there that it could be a motivator, but I don't know.
But here's look at the teams this year. You look at the West. If you say you do this and you have, and this is one of the things with the teams in particular this year where it seems like they've rewarded good players on good teams. So if you look at the West and you look at, Shea and J-Dub in OKC, you look at Jaren Jackson, you look at Sengun, you go down the list, you are, same thing in the East. It's the guys in the Knicks think they're making the finals.
Right.
Obviously the guys in Boston think they're making the finals. The guys in the Knicks think they're making the finals. The guys in Cleveland, there's 3 of them on this team, think they're making the finals. The guys in Milwaukee, there's 2 of them think they're making the finals. There were a lot of players who made the All-Star teams this year who if you ask them right now, they're not bluffing. They think they're going there.
Yeah, that is true.
They think they're going there. True. And so it's actually way easier to find the players who were on All-Star teams this year who could honestly be we have no chance of going. And we were just talking about this before. The argument that I would make would be, well, that's all well and good, but they're not going to look stupid not playing hard in a game where 80% of the game is
and then naturally held
playing.
accountable by their teamemates.
Yes, and it'll be obvious if everyone else is playing and they aren't. And so I don't really understand the. I mean, I would say the argument against it from an overall fan perspective is that, like, why does this one random game in February determine this? But what I would also say is, you know, home court advantage isn't everything. There's been a bunch of examples of teams that have not had home court advantage who've won playoff series, finals, whatever it is. Honestly, I think the record in game ones in the finals is like fairly close to 50-50 in terms of who wins that anyways. So it's not like, you know, the East wins the All-Star game.
Yeah.
It's going to screw over the Thunder. You know, they're still probably are going to feel pretty good about themselves. But you give a level of immediate stakes to this.
And you're not taking away from anything else.
Like those guys, like we know that the guys we're talking about on these teams, I'm like, they're locking in. If you're telling them this is going to determine who gets a game 7 on June 15th, they're treating that game completely differently.
Right. Which is why the game isn't probably taken as serious as some people would like or as we would like, because again, you have 20-some games left until the playoffs, and you're facing potentially a couple months of extra basketball. Like, this is the only week/weekend of downtime that you get.
Yeah.
And like you just said, like, you're put through the media, you're put through activations, you're put through work with brands. So you're just always on go. So like, this is my first All-Star going to. This is my first time going. And it is hectic. Like, you're always doing something. Yeah. And everybody who's been there obviously knows that. And so the guys, you know what I mean? It's like, by the time I left Sunday morning, by the time Sunday night came around, I was tired. Yeah. I just shot threes for a minute, for 70 seconds. And I'm like, man, I'm tired. So I think that's what, like, I've heard the arguments like, oh, guys play so hard and pick up, guys do this, guys do that. Like, what is so hard to get guys to play hard in this game? Is like, I got to go back to work, and like this is the only downtime.
Yeah.
So maybe there is something to finding a way to actually prioritizing that game. Does it move ahead of Saturday's events? Do you switch the days? I know it's the grand finale, but I don't know. It's just, it does need to be better.
We asked Trey, what he thought about this, and I don't think he was opposed to the idea of home court, but he was just saying people are not understanding that this is our only break, basically. And so that's all well and good, but I would say I understand the fan perspective as well. I mean, we did a pod with Obama in October, and he was getting on Ty about it then. He's just like, I'm watching the game and no one cares. You're like, how are you going to get fan buy-in to that? You know, if it's very clear that nobody cares. You watched a little bit this on Sunday night, but you were working out.
Yeah, I was lifting. I had it on. I was going to the gym, like, to shoot. I had it on, like, in the background. But it was a little bit more difficult to keep track of. You know, who's on what team, who's playing what game is it? It's just there.
Yeah. One thing I thought was crazy from this past Sunday, J-Dub, Cade, and Evan Mobley, 3 All-Stars, played 6 total minutes.
Between the three of them.
Interesting. Played 6 total minutes. So they played fewer minutes than Zach Edey, for example.
Yeah.
Great rookie season. Yeah. Not an All-Star.
Right.
That feels crazy.
Right.
I just don't, the new format, I get the idea of trying stuff.
Yeah.
There's a lot of issues with the broadcast and everything like that too, in terms of what they were
absolutely
what they were showing and everything like that. But I'm just like, I don't understand how you have 3 players like this who are probably your new generation of young stars that you want to highlight, and they literally don't get in the game.
Yeah.
That feels like at a certain point you could make the argument, if you're going to do that, just don't have the game at all.
Right.
And just do other stuff.
The bottom line is, like, that Sunday game is reserved for the actual All-Stars. Like, that's what it should be.
Yeah.
And when it's at its best, it has been competitive and it has been a must-watch. So whatever we can do to get it back to that. And when it was at its best, it was East versus West, rivalries, this, that, the other. Guys, getting a little chippy maybe. And it was never like an all-out effort. It wasn't like a Game 7 effort, but it was there was some competitiveness to it. So I do think it needs to be some sort of I do think there has to be a regular game type format to it that highlights these players, like you said.
Do you see any value in a USA versus World?
I do. The only issue is you can't guarantee a perfect split. So what do you do in that instance? You know, what do you like? What if you have?
Well, you probably just put people in it who probably would not have made it.
Yeah, and
otherwise.
but the All-Star award is an honor, an achievement that like has, you know, career implications, financial implications. So you're messing with a lot there.
Two other specific things, not with the game, that people have brought up. One-on-one, would you want to see it?
Yeah, 100%.
You playing it?
I mean, sure. I would love to. It would be fun. I think that would be a really cool thing to add to Saturday. You know what I mean?
Who do you think is who's like right now your favorite in that?
I think it's going to have to be, it depends on what parameters you put on it. Like, is it a time count? Is it a dribble count? I think it's going to be.
So you have to say it's a time count.
It's going to be your best shot makers that have enough defensive ability to get stops. So like an immediate person that comes to mind is like Kevin Durant. You know, 7 foot, can get to any shot he wants, can make any shot he wants, and then has the length to defend
everybody.
Yeah, right? Because if you're like a smaller, good defender, you could be Gobert, defensive player of the year, multi-time, but you might get on that island.
Yeah, it's tough.
You know?
It's tough. It's also just so matchup dependent with him.
Right. So you want somebody that can guard a lot of different positions.
I think Tatum would be tough.
Exactly. That's exactly what I'm saying.
Tatum is just, he matches
so it
up
might,
with everyone.
you never know. It could be like, or you know, you had guys that are smaller guards, like a Kyrie that could.
Yeah, that's
what
I'm curious about.
Get into the ball on defense.
Who's like Shea's another one we have to throw in there just because Shea's length will allow him to defend a lot of.
There's a lot of good candidates for this game.
But who's a non-all-star? Who's someone who like in one-on-one?
Probably a lot.
That's what I'm like. I'm curious.
You take a lot of basketball out of the game, like a lot of the like.
You don't got to share the ball. You just got to play defense on one end and get a bucket on the other.
Absolutely. There's probably a lot more guys that would give a lot of people a run for your money that you don't think of.
Is there one? Give me one. That cannot like. There's. I mean, I shouldn't say not an all-star. Like they're never going to be an all-star. It's like they were not an all-star this year, but they were like, if you call them up and you were like, this is a dude who like. I'm betting on him, maybe not to win, but I'm betting on him to like get to the final four.
Like just the ability to get the ball and score. Like Cam Thomas will go out there and score the ball. You put one defender in front of him, and he's going to get to it.
No one is crying.
He's going to love his whatever shot he gets to. He's going to love it, and like he's going to thrive in that environment.
I like that. That's a good one.
So this is like there's a lot of guys out there that you give them the ball and they can score
just a bucket,
just a bucket.
Period.
You know. So I think it would be a great competition where it's like, and guys would have pride in it. You don't want to be out there getting barbecue chicken.
You're on a real
and
island.
I think guys would really sign up for it.
Yeah.
You know?
People have talked about like horse in the past. Is there any other fixes you feel like are obvious? Like if there was something like this to throw in or to change about a current event that you'd want to see?
I don't know what you would do about the dunk contests. Maybe keep having Mac McClung go and I don't know.
He's unbelievable.
Like Stephon Castle's dunks were incredible too.
Incredible.
Like, yeah, it's just
the craziest thing with Mac is he doesn't ever miss.
Yeah,
like he never.
Oh no, he's an amazing dunk contest contestant. Like let's make that very clear.
No, but I'm just saying, like even like as much as he's had success with this, I would want to like go back and look at this. Like I can't remember him like flubbing one of them, which is just it feels like. Human nature, no matter how good you are,
you're gonna push yourself
fuck up one.
And you're gonna
His is just
he just goes out there, jumps and dunks it.
He's
every
like
time.
Extremely efficient. Like
that's what he does.
Yeah,
professional dunk contest champion.
It's like Cam Thomas, like a professional bucket getter. Mac is a professional dunker.
Yeah.
Horse could be interesting. I feel like you would be good in horse.
Yeah, but I wouldn't throw it in there quick. Then I just think you're reaching. You're like you seem desperate when you start throwing in horse. I think you start with one-on-one.
The problem also with horse is the nature of horse. I would just say in general is like you're trying crazy shit and you're trying shit that like you can try it 5 or 6 times and hopefully on the 5th or 6th time you make it, but like that doesn't lend itself well to a televised, even with the dunk contest.
It would have to be like pre-recorded, clipped, and cleaned up and
it's
presented.
Like you
not
feel,
a live event.
You feel stressed for these guys when they miss one dunk, especially like the young guys.
Not a live event.
Like when you're doing that and you don't make the shot for 15 times, it's like no one's trying to watch it.
What did you think about the production of the All-Star Weekend when it came to like how drawn out the game was?
The TNT side of it?
Yeah, all the influencer stuff going on around the scenes. Like
I didn't understand I didn't like or understand any part of it.
Okay.
Like I understand in theory why they put Kevin Hart there. He's like a friend of the league and he's a funny guy and all the players really like him. And, he might not be for everybody, but like that's a way to, bring entertainment value and liven it up. And I think if the game was better, if people had fewer complaints about the game, they would have had fewer complaints about him, basically. I did not understand the random break in the middle of the game to just honor the TNT guys, especially when NBA and TNT is going on ESPN next year. So it's not like these guys are like going anywhere.
Right.
That felt really crazy to me. Like it just was there's a little bit like who's asking for this, and you knew going into Sunday night that people had questions about this. And so it kind of felt like the whole thing spiraled a little bit where if you could have it back, there's a part of me that's like, this is probably going to be, I don't want to be dramatic, but this feels like rock bottom for the All-Star game. And I'm like, next year will probably be better with different adjustments, because I don't know how you could have, I don't know anybody who was like, oh yeah, that was great. Anyone playing in it, anyone involved with it.
I mean, we just had a really good All-Star game a couple of years ago. So it's not like it's dead and gone. Like it's definitely.
The stakes thing is the obvious thing.
Add in some incentive. It's just.
But we talked about this. We talked about this with.
Being an All-Star is an incentive, first of all. Like, but it's an honor that is given to you because of how you played early in the season.
Yeah.
So like it's, like guys will be given the honor of being an All-Star and not play. Like it's not like you get your All-Star revoked.
But this is the thing we talked about.
So my point is it's more of an honor to be named an All-Star than to like actually compete in the game.
Yes, that's fair. But what we talked about with Ty and Obama was he was saying this, and what Ty was saying from his own experience being on the team is basically that I'm a younger guy and I'm following the lead of everyone else. And if everyone else is like, we're going to go out there and we're just going to kind of like, fuck around and like get our shots off.
Yeah, he'd look crazy if he was like picking up full.
And so that's where it gets back to, whether it is the financial thing, whether it is the home court, having like a defined stakes that everybody from the top down is like, I'm going to be pissed if I lose.
Or at least the top.
Yes, but from the top, like if that exists at
then
the top,
it would trickle down.
Yes, if it exists at the top, then the young guys are going to be playing even harder.
Right,
they're going to be fully
Agreed.
Locked in, and that's just where the league has to look inward a little bit about the. I'm not going to be like you can't have an event like this is there's a financial components that go into why all of these things happen over the weekend that we've both taken part in, but there should also be, I think about it a little bit like Super Bowl, where obviously the stakes are very different, but at the Super Bowl, the people playing in the Super Bowl are removed at a certain point. There's a cutoff. They do the media day, which is a frenzy, and they did all this different shit. And then there's a cutoff, and you're like, you don't see, I was down there, you don't see the guys from the Chiefs or the Eagles doing anything for 36 hours before the game. I'm kind of like, there's a world where you could say,
but that's a whole 2 weeks.
Oh, I know. And the scale is different. So that's why it's a little apples to oranges. But what I'm saying is like, if you had a thing where it was real stakes and you actually wanted this game to matter, you could say, all right, get everything out of the way Thursday night through Friday at like 8 p.m. or whatever it is. And then, you don't need 3 full days to lock in. But then treat it like a real game. And then treat it like a thing where you are being like, oh, you have the coaches in here. They're going and prepping in a real way. And they're like I guarantee you those coaches, if it was home court advantage, are treating that game differently.
Especially given who the coaches are.
Who the coaches are. They're like they're treating this like it's a bigger game than basically anything. And so there's just is a level of, there's a level of like half measures that I feel like it's in right now. And they may not care. Like they're probably like, I don't know, the ratings weren't great, but there's also like, sometimes this is like people complaining for the sake of complaining. So it might not be.
Which people do.
Yeah. It might not be that big of a deal, but it isn't it's frustrating when you have that level of talent and like showmanship there and everybody leaves with like a weird taste in their mouth. Like that feels like a thing you should figure out how to not have that be the case.
Right.